So here we have these beauties. We're going to take you through the whole VCORE 2026 range. As you can see, it features this really nice slick gloss coating here on the racket, something that they've never had before. Gives it that sort of pro stock feel. Now this is all about improving what the VCORE does well. So for those that don't know, the VCORE is all about spin. It has a slightly higher launch angle than the E-Zone, and for me it plays softer, it's more comfortable on the arm. The grommets are different in this, so they're supposed to increase snapback a lot. So you've got a vertical grommets instead of horizontal, so the strings really move and snap back in position. You've also got the Servo Filter, which is the feel element of a Percept integrated into the VCORE. So those that try the Percept, it's like that buttery traditional feel. Implementing it into the VCORE is going to be really interesting. And then you've got they flattened out the frame a little bit to make it more aerodynamic. So you're talking about small margin updates, but it is a completely new frame. So it's going to be really interesting to get it in the hands of pros we got with us today to see what they can do with the ball. You expect to see a lot of shape on the ball, even for someone that hits a pancake flat ball like Sean. And it'll be really interesting to see. The 95 is probably my favorite racket in terms of the VCORE, because you got this isometric head from Yonex here. It doesn't play like a 95. Even mere beginners like me can get the most out of a 95. The 98 and the 98 Tour for those that want a bit more stability. Then you got the 100, which is your power spin frame. And for those that are wanting control and forgiveness, there's a new one in the range called the 100D, which features a denser pattern than the standard 100 and is 305 grams. But enough of all the technical stuff. Let's see some good players striking some balls with it and see how they get on. So all these frames will be available to test from mid-Jan when it launches in 2026 at our shop at the wonderful Westway Sports and Fitness, but across all our stores. By the time this video comes out, you'll see we have a brand new flagship store in Wimbledon, Southfields as well, just outside the championships. And we've also got our stores in Hyde Park, Regent's Park and Windsor for you to try these rackets out. Now what's interesting, these guys are instantly grooved with the racket in hand. Lots of net clearance, lots of shape. That's what the VCORE is all about. As you know, for those that have watched your channel before, I've got a big love for the 95. I think that's one of the most slept on rackets out there in terms of it does so much really well. Whips through, gives you spin, but obviously the control of a 95. And for those that hear the word 95 and cringe thinking it's going to be too hard to play with, the isometric shape really helps with that. I never feel like I'm shanking it or whatever with the ball. So what do we know about the VCOREs then from last year? So, different frame. As I said in the intro, you've got Servo Filter in the frame. You've also got different grommets that should increase snapback. That's the big buzzword at the moment in tennis. The snapback of the strings is what gives you the spin. And you can actually hear it. When these guys are striking a ball, you can hear the strings ripping back into position. Obviously the VCORE is a really much loved racket on tour as well. You see a huge amount of players now using Yonex. They know that they're going to get rackets all the same. It's that made in Japan quality that separates Yonex from the other brands. It's spoken about in the industry, but maybe not spoken about enough. That they are the one brand you can buy the racket from, and you know that quality control is going to be absolutely brilliant because they're making it themselves in their own factory in Japan, and they've got a real eye for detail with this stuff. And I always think when you're spending £200 plus on a brand new frame, it's all that you deserve really, is knowing that if you get a couple of frames you're getting the same racket.
So the first thing that I'm feeling from the 95 is just like how soft it is compared to other spin frames like, you know, the Aero or maybe even the Head Extreme. Just the level of comfort on this racket is phenomenal. You know, and sometimes you know, with rackets that are more comfortable, they kind of feel like they flex quite a lot. Whereas this feels still really kind of stable on impact. And yeah, with regards to, you know, the level of spin I'm getting, it's like, it's pretty good. You know, like very high launch angle. I'm clearing the net pretty easily. Sorry, just scraped it there. It just performs so well. I mean, I can't believe it's a 95 because the sweet spot just feels massive. You know, it doesn't feel like a 95 at all. When I'm kind of thinking to, you know, 95 square inch frames that I really like, something like the Wilson 6195, the 1820, you know, this is like a completely different feeling. It's like so much softer, you know, there's more pop, there's more spin. No, I think that's the way to put it, is like it's a traditional racket, but it's, you know, like a modern upgrade. It's, you know, modern performance, you know, more spin, more pop.
And the best thing for me is the ease of hitting a single-handed backhand with it. It just feels
I think
because you can roll the ball, you can slice the ball, you can flatten that off.
It just gives you so much. Like, because it's 95, it gives you a bit of control, but then because of the feeling of the frame and the spin, you know, you're getting a lot out of the racket as well. So I actually think out of probably all the rackets that I've hit with, you know, from Yonex, I'd say this is probably the best one-hander racket, you know, out there really. But yeah, it feels unbelievable. And I think the paint job as well, it's just stunning. Can't stop looking at it.
Yeah, so I was playing basically from the age of 6. Was competing probably from the age of about 10 to about 20. Played some UK national tours and some low-level futures and stuff, and kind of COVID happened, changed my mind, and then got more into sort of coaching really. So now all my focus is coaching, and just basically doing social media, giving people tips, and yeah, that's kind of in a short, brief way of the journey. Yeah. Tennis coach Ollie. Yeah. So loads of tennis focus, all tips and just ways to improve in a simple way. I think a lot of players, the racket focus is so much. And I think it really does matter, like in terms of the style you play. You know, if you're a one-hander or you like to play flat, you like to play a lot of slice, like to serve and volley. I think if you can handle that, then you could probably handle something like a 95, you know, a small frame. Just kind of, it's very much dependent on what game style you play and how you play. Because yeah. Yeah. I think he'd suit this, to be fair. I think this is, it's really nice. I mean, like the sweet point feels, but you have to hit it well to really feel it. I think one-handers with a 95, it suits. Yeah, this does feel really, for a 95, it feels really easy. You know, they should know, or they should have advice from their coach, like what strings, you know, would suit their game, and definitely trying out. Because I think a lot of players obviously base the rackets off what their idol is, which I think is dangerous. Because, you know, everyone's got a very unique playing style. Just because you like Alcaraz doesn't mean you can play like Alcaraz. So I think it's you just have to know, and your coach has to guide you in terms of what could fit you best. Oh, too good. Not getting there. Yeah, I know. Do you feel like that feels easier than this? I think so, yeah. Yeah. Like a 5% increase in power. Yeah. This you got to do a bit more work. Oh yeah. Ah. For a 95 though, doesn't feel like you're playing with a 95. No. Yeah. No. Oh. Oh.
So in terms of feel then, obviously is this the first time you've tried the 95?
Yeah, first time I tried the 95. I think for feel, I can see even with that first volley I hit, not the second one, but it felt really easy cushion to volley. I quite like playing with a lot of slice, drop shots, so I feel like maybe I could transition from 98 to 95, but it does feel really easy for a 95.
That shot you hit to draw Sean out wide, you can see the shape on the ball,
Yeah,
the VCORE shape compared to say
Yeah.
Percept.
Yeah,
Immediately diving back into court, hit with a bit more
Yeah.
room for error, more percentages. And
it does feel like quite easy to play with spin, especially from a 95. I always feel like a lot of players, I don't know, naturally they're hitting flat with 95 more than spin, but you can feel like I love playing with a lot of rip on the forehand, and it feels really easy and maneuverable to kind of just brush,
yeah,
which is really nice.
Dwell time, I think, is the word for this racket. You can really feel
Yeah.
the ball on the strings.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know that you can go for some bigger angles because you've got the shape.
yeah, especially on that forehand. I mean, for me, you can definitely feel like if you want to put a lot of heavy work on it, you can, which is nice to feel that.
Many other threes or
Oh, I would not have thought that's 310, to be honest. It does feel like it's got a little bit more than that. Sorry. The Percept is very good for hands as well, so I kind of feel like it's a similar, but this feels like you just get a bit more zip. Whereas that, I feel like you have to work even more to kind of hit through the ball. Oh, that's terrible.
I think straight away from hitting with this, I feel like this is probably one of the easiest rackets at 315 to play with and get stuff out of. Like, if you think about this compared to my pro staff, like obviously there's benefits of the pro staff, but this is so much more like friendly, you know, it's so much more comfortable, the sweet spot's way bigger, you know, the launch angle of the ball, it's so much easier to get the ball up and down. You know, with 315s, sometimes they're a little bit hard to maneuver, whereas this, you know, I was actually really surprised that it was 315. I mean, you know, when it's going through the ball, you can definitely feel there's more weight, there's more plow through. I'd say there's probably not as much spin, you know, obviously there's not as much spin as the, you know, the normal 98. I'm getting a little bit more weight through the ball, but, you know, I actually quite like that. I think out of all of them, this is probably, you know, my favorite so far. Yeah. So when I was hitting with the E-zone, the 98 especially, the ball felt like it was like leaving the racket a lot quicker. It felt a lot more responsive, a lot more powerful. This feels like the ball kind of hangs on the strings a little bit more. It feels like it kind of pockets it a little bit, you know, more nicely. And I'm definitely getting a little bit more feel with this. The E-zone was very kind of, you know, it's a great racket, obviously, like, you know, power, pop. It's quite a stiff racket in my opinion. I think it's pretty stiff. Whereas this is like, you know, you're still getting a decent amount of power. I wouldn't say you're getting as much with this, you know, compared to the E-zone, but you're still getting a decent amount. You're getting more spin, but the most important thing for me with this is the comfort. You know, it's just such a nice racket to hit with. The sweet spot feels absolutely massive. You know, for me, this, if you handed me this, you could tell me it was a 100, and I believe you. You know, it feels that comfortable. I think it's also an unbelievable racket for the single-handers. You know, it gives you that stability and also feel and comfort, but it just gives you a little bit more pop. Yeah, it definitely feels like there's something different going on. Like, I can't quite like describe it. Like, it feels like there's like a different reaction when the ball hits the string. I think this is a great balance of pretty much, you know, the whole kind of, you know, spin, power, control. Like, I think it's a very even, you know, and comfort, which is probably, you know, one of the most important things these days. We all talk about, you know, how soft the tennis balls are getting, how slow the courts are getting, you know, the wear and tear on your body, your arm, etc., everything. You know, I feel like the comfort of this is huge.
That's all the rackets have been strung today by our wonderful Harry in store at £53 with PTP. Obviously, PTP is a soft round poly, so it's comfortable, but it's not giving you huge amounts of spin compared to a shaped poly, or when you mix two polys in a hybrid, like a shaped in the mains and round crosses. But the snapback and spin you're getting out of this is pretty good. It's right up there, I'd
Definitely,
say.
yeah.
And then interesting, if you put a shaped poly in this, what sort of...
I mean, it's just going to shred the ball. Yeah, it's just going to shred the ball. There's going to be nothing left.
Yeah.
It's going to cut them in half. But I also think something to do with the tension is really important, that stringing it lower, you're going to get more out of the racket. It's going to allow the strings to snap back more. You know, if you're stringing this at a higher tension, I don't feel like you're going to get as much out of the racket as stringing it like looser, you know. And this
It's
is
not meant to be a board.
It's meant to be really kind of like, you know, absorbing the ball, like launching it back off. It's not meant to just ping straight off.
Yeah, I'd say low 50s.
Yeah, like I think 53, 51, you know, would be amazing. You know, 53 in the mains, 51 in the cross with this, and you can really make use of that spin as well, really launch the ball. I think what's also really important, you know, for this racket as a player, you know, is understanding that, you know, I think this is going to help you pretty much across all different surfaces. You know, you were talking about the clay. This is going to be unbelievable on the clay. But I don't think you're going to be missing out on the indoor hard either. I think you're going to be able to, you know, still hit through the ball, still get that level of control that you need and plow through. Yeah, there's so much swing on it. I mean, to be honest, I normally hit my serve relatively quite flat. So I'm not actually trying to put any more spin on the ball than I normally am. It's just moving, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's actually very easy to flatten the ball out as well. It's not like I'm getting, you know, I can add shape when I want to, but I can actually, you know, still keep control and flatten it out as well. I really feel like out of all the rackets that I've tested, this actually feels like a perfect combination of pretty much everything, you know, weight through the ball, comfort, spin, control, you know, feel. It actually, you know, I think it's pretty much like, for me, this feels like, as a player, pretty like bang on in the middle, really.
So what would stop you from then picking it up to go and play a UTR?
I don't think much would stop me, to be honest. I think I could definitely go out and play with this. You know, it's not taking me any time to adjust to pretty much anything. You know, last week when we did the aero, like, it took me a while to adjust on my serve. It, you know, took me a little while to adjust on my volleys and stuff like that. Whereas this, I've picked this up. I've never really hit with the VCORE Tour before, VCORE 98 Tour, and I've just got on with it so well. Like, not one of my shots fell out of place. I mean, you've seen it.
Sure.
Yeah, might have to fetch some of the balls out of the back fence. But yeah, like straight away you can see how I was striking it. It just felt very natural. And also one thing that I've just noticed actually, which is probably a game changer for a lot of people, made in Japan. Can you see that on the camera? Get it to focus, come on.
I think from what I've played with it so far, I think for me, I need that extra support with some power. So I think the only thing I struggle with the Percept is that I have to really hit through it. Whereas this, I feel like I can kind of just like use obviously Sean's pace and kind of just redirect, which is quite nice for like more of a coach perspective, not as a player. But I'm really liking just the effortless feel. I don't really want to work super hard. But I think the 98 I prefer than 95. It's a shape that I'm more used to. Always played with 98s over the years. I love that, like, you know, you can whip the forehand. It's just. Aha, there it is. But I feel like even if for like kick and stuff, this feels be very easy just to, anything with spin I feel with this racket is super easy. Oh, that's 100. That doesn't happen often. That does not happen often. I have to, with Sean, I know I have to just go for it.
Yeah.
Can't rally with him. There's no way. That was very jammy. Oh, Sean, that's ridiculous. See, with a normal player, I think that I would have won the point.
I
But
was just about to say, like,
you know,
like stroke it down the line. They're jumping it.
I think that's just, you know, I thought the point was over. There's levels, there definitely is.
In terms of this being like a super whippy, spin-friendly racket,
Yeah,
this is at 315, right? So it's on
Okay.
the heavier end.
doesn't actually, that's interesting.
Frames, right?
It's the other one, the 95 felt heavier than this. Yeah,
So then it's obviously got a nice headlight balance, so it gives you weight of ball as
Yeah.
well as spin,
Yeah.
basically. It'll be interesting to see if you prefer the maneuverability of the standard 98,
Yeah.
which is 305, or the weight of the 315.
yeah, that is, it's true, because it actually feels like weirdly lighter. Maybe just because it feels a bit more maneuverable in the hands. I think I am quite a spinny player. I mean, favourite surface is definitely clay.
Yeah.
So I love to like come back and I've got quite a big backswing as well. So I do prefer like a racket I can kind of rip it, like really rip. I can hit flat, but I just don't. Yeah, I feel like on those little short balls, that's when it's so maneuverable. Like I feel like if I want to hit the lines, I can,
Yeah.
especially on my forehand. But yeah, it does feel like you can really maneuver the wrist really easily.
And it's comfortable, right?
Very comfortable. Because I've played with plenty of rackets that are really just rigid and you can't do much. But this, it's got the weight and it's got the maneuverability, which is quite a good combo, I think.
So this is obviously the 98, probably the most popular, right? We've gone 95, 98 tour, now we're on the 98. Maneuverability, whippy, still pretty stable, not as stable as the 98 tour, but what you're gaining is that huge racket head speed, maneuverability. It'll be interesting to see how this feels from the back and serving, playing points.
Yeah, like so far with the 98, the difference between, you know, the 98 tour and this, there's a lot more maneuverability with this. You know, it's way more whippy. I said about the stability in the corners, but with this I can move it so much quicker. You know, when I'm moved out wide, I can just kind of like almost get around the ball because it's so whippy. On lower balls as well, like, you know, really kind of getting them up and down is so easy because you're just able to move the racket so fast. I'd say that this is definitely, it feels a little bit more powerful, a little bit more poppy than the 98 tour, I think. I'd say that you're probably able to generate more spin with this because it's a little bit lighter. This definitely feels like it's going to be the most popular out of the whole range, in my opinion. It just sits really nicely in the middle.
So it'd be interesting that you're getting a little bit more racket head speed and pop because of the 10 grams less weight in this one.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that.
Flick of the wrist. That was going in.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy to get the ball up and down. Like even, you know, when those shorter balls are coming in, like you can just kind of, I don't know, it's so fast through the air, so whippy.
It was so
but
nonchalant.
yeah,
So,
you just know that you're able to, you know, generate a ridiculous amount of spin with it, so you can just bring the ball back in. Where do you want me to go? Body, ace body. Where do you want it this time?
I want it body again.
Body. Yeah, I mean, you still. I'm a big believer in, you know, like control and power is all about the way you look at it, and I think because this is more poppy, with the volleys, you can literally just stick the racket out and you can almost just let it bounce off. I think with some stiffer frames, some like more control orientated frames, they can actually be harder to volley with because you've got to actually do more. This does so much of the work for you, as you just saw. Like, how much did I put on that volley? Absolutely nothing.
Just enough.
Nada backswing. Just told Ollie to go for the tag, so he knows I'm going to serve and volley, but we're going to really test out the feel and the hands on this thing. Hey! Yeah, I mean, you can just see on that first volley, like, I know that it's a spin racket, it's, you know, more power as well, but I'm still getting stability. You know, you see the control on that first volley. He's fired it in at me, and I'm still able to just nudge it back, you know? What do you want this time? Go on, tell me.
Yeah, I want to kick out wide into the curtain.
Kick out wide into the curtain. You want me to follow it in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Little foray to the net. Hey! Hey! Oh, that would have been so good. You can just see how, like, you know, on that first volley, he's made a very good return there. Look at the height of the ball. It's nearly at my knee, and I'm still able to just, you know, play it back. But to be honest, on that second volley, I felt like I was there. You can maneuver the racket quite quickly at the net. So I often think with these rackets, a lot of it is about how you understand them and how you view them. Yeah. Because, you know, when we're talking about power frames, spin frames, whatever, you know, they do a lot of the work for you when you come forward. So you don't actually need to do too much.
You've hit a little bit with the 100 from the back. Saw a couple of balls fly, okay? Huge power. It's kind of soft feeling, powerful film. Who would it suit? Because you probably wouldn't choose the 100 to go out and play a match with.
No.
But what does the 100 suit?
I'd say probably players who, you know, want a little bit more from the racket in terms of power. I think if you're, you know, somebody that, you know, doesn't maybe generate a huge amount of power, or you probably have, you know, good feel, something like that, but you can control that power. You know, people who probably play maybe outdoors more, you know, on the play, they want something that really launches the ball, you know, with that easy playability and comfort. What
you find is the 100 does feature that thicker frame. The D does a good job in controlling that as well. So the D is one they've had in terms of the other rackets in the line. So your Percept features the D. E-Zone doesn't yet, but the D obviously being a denser pattern. 1620 versus 1619 is still a spin-friendly racket. They haven't gone really 1820 or 1819 with it. But yeah, what's interesting is these rackets, I would say, suit intermediate players, but they're by no means for just intermediate players. It's for those players that want that extra put-away ability, that power on tap, those that, you know, the technique's good, but they just want that extra power from the frame. They're absolutely huge on the WTA Tour. I'm thinking if you're playing with a performance junior, 14, 15, 16, they don't need the 98, they're still developing physically. They want that feel and power, but they need that as well. You can't just give them a 98 and be like, swing from the hip. That extra power is going to help, especially with balls getting a bit slower through the court, courts are slower. Getting good pace in one of these two, and also the fact that they're comfortable. Normally 100s being stiffer frames, they need it to maintain stability. These are comfortable spin monsters in both the 100 and 100D. It's going to be really interesting to see this year how this performs. It's quite a niche racket, 100, 1620. Definitely going to be seeing more sort of ladies and more intermediate players that want the power using the frame. This is obviously a whole range of rackets. For those just starting to play and they want a Yonex VCORE or an E-Zone, etc., you've got an alpha range, so just over £100. You've got the super light, the light and the standard alpha. They're all going to be 250, 260, 275 grams. Really nice frames. Then you jump up to the Japanese models. Super popular model this year has been the 100L. Really, really popular with that side of the teenage market or ladies wanting a performance frame, but with that extra maneuverability. The big thing this year is the 100 stays in, but the 100D comes in, which is a slightly denser pattern, 1620 versus 1619. Interesting they didn't go denser than that, they've just gone one extra string. but it is 305 grams versus a 300. Then your Tour performance frames, you say, the 100 sits in that, definitely, and the 100D does as well, but then you go 98 at 305 grams, 1619, you got the 98 Tour at 315 grams and 1619, and then you've got the VCORE 95 at 310 grams and 95 square inches. And a beautiful gloss finish on all of these. Remember guys, these are made in Japan in the top end, so anything from here, 98 upwards. Obviously 100L is as well. You've also got a 98L. Now this is a really interesting racket. For those of you that want a 98 sort of level of control, you don't feel like you can deal with a 305 weight, this comes in at 285. So for those juniors that want a controlled hitting frame, that like a 98 because they can swing to the trees and control the ball, at 285, this is a really nice racket. It's a platform racket as well. You can add lead and go and make it exactly what you want to do. But they've done a great job for me, Yonex, this year. And the VCORE really is going to compete with the E-Zone, I think, in terms of playability. So obviously you've tried all these beauties today. They all do something a little bit different. They all offer something different.
Yeah.
The higher weights, more stability feel.
Yeah.
Where were you in terms of what racket would you take to, if you're playing Sean Hodkin and the tie break to 10?
Need something special.
The biggest matches of your life. What are you taking out of all of these?
I'd say I'd probably have to choose a 98 just because it felt the most stable and the most consistent for me. I enjoyed the 95 as well. I just felt like if you're not feeling the ball on that day, it's really hard to play with it.
Was the conditions indoors struggling for you for the 95?
Yeah, like it's just fast from Sean, so it was like
I thought you were going to blame the sun or cloud cover.
I wish, yeah, but I think you know, trying to take the ball as early as I can on the forehand, I feel like I can do that pretty well. The backhand is a bit tough, but yeah, I feel like it's just a really manoeuvrable racket where you can, for me especially with the spin, I love whipping the forehand a lot. I just felt like the 98, you can do that really comfortably, no pressure, yeah.
Across all the frames, one thing when he was playing points, what was evident, is he didn't want to be in a huge long rally with Sean, right?
No.
He wanted to almost hit the angle,
Yeah.
take him out of court, maybe put him in that beautiful curtain over there. That was your game, and that VCORE seemed to really suit you. Like in terms of E-Zone VCORE Percept, I would go VCORE for you for that angle creation, the snapback.
I can feel that, especially on those shorter balls where I was trying to like kind of tuck him out wide. With the forehand, felt really comfortable to do that. Okay. Yeah.
And then obviously the 100 for you was a little bit too launchy. You lost that control.
Yeah, just a little bit too much power. I think hard for me to, because I quite like to slice and try and volley, and it's a bit more feely. Yeah.
So as a coach, obviously 100s, when you're playing with maybe performance players, 13, 14, 15, 16, or ladies, etc., they want a bit more from the racket.
Yeah.
Would you position the 100 there, and then the 98s for more players that are like stronger physically, for example, don't need that extra power?
Yeah, I think 100 would suit like more towards like club amateur sort of level where they need a bit more through the ball, whereas 98, I think it's definitely, I would say, more on the, you have to kind of still hit through, you can't just rely on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's, definitely depends on your physicalities as well. If you're strong, you can handle it, then definitely. 95 is a whole different
and what's interesting, looking at the ladies tour, the VCORE 100, if you're watching ladies matches, so many of them are using that red VCORE. And it's that 100 square inch frame. I think that power, they're slightly flatter game as well, so they're lower, hitting through the ball. Yeah. It's got to be probably the most popular ladies tour frame. That with a blade, I'd say. Yeah. In terms of that. So you would be 98, and 98 tour, who would you recommend that for versus the 98? I think it's quite a similar frame, but I think someone that obviously more performance based, and obviously someone like Sean, someone who's got like can really hit through the ball. And but to be honest, I felt like they felt pretty similar. Yeah. For me, just personally, the 98 just felt like I could whip the ball a little bit more. But they're pretty similar all around, I would say. Okay. Yeah. So 98. Is it a racket that you'd look to use for? You're obviously a Yonex sponsored player and coach. Would this be your choice or a Percept? I think, since I played with this today, I think this would be probably more suited to me than the Percept. I feel like it's so hard to
feel the ball always.
Yeah.
When it feels good, it feels good. But this, like, I feel like I can kind of just maneuver it and play with it more effortlessly. So I think from what I played with, this seems really good for me in terms of fit. Yeah.
Big kick.
Yeah.
So 1-0 for the Yonex VCORE 98. Let's see what Sean thinks. So VCORE, you were pleasantly surprised, I think, in terms of the way they played. Not a racket that was maybe in your sort of top 3, top 5 before today, but has it done enough to get in that sort of...
I'd say it's definitely there, potentially top 3, I think.
Okay. And what sort of VCORE would you be going for out of these?
I think my favourite is definitely the 98 Tour, just because of the extra weight behind it. You know, it really felt like I could kind of do a lot with this frame. I feel like I could flatten it out, I could hit loads of spin, and it was still very kind of comfortable. Typically, you know, 315s, they're a little bit kind of harder to use, I think. They're probably a little bit stiffer generally. You know, whereas this, I think, is a real kind of modern, you know, classic 315, I think. Yeah, it just performed so well. I really felt like I could pick this racket up and just go out and play a match with it. You know, other rackets I've tested out took me a little while to get used to, whereas this was just very natural straight away.
I think that's the ultimate compliment, right? A racket can feel amazing from the baseline, and then when you're constructing points and serving, playing to the level you do, it's that trust element. And it's different to what you've used before, but you look very grooved. That shape you were getting from the ball, and the fact that it is so comfortable for a 315 and for a spin racket. It's not relying on stiffness to give you that snapback. It's the tech within the frame.
And I think it's so good for a one-hander as well. I feel like, you know, if you're somebody who likes that weight through the ball, which is normally like a one-hander, they probably play through it a little bit more, maybe a slightly bigger swing. You know, I really feel like this, you'll be right at home with it.
So I want to know, because I'm a bit biased, I think the 95 is an absolute wand of a racket. So what, for you as a real top player, why do you choose a 98 Tour over a 95?
For me, although the 95, like, it felt like it was a 98, you know, it feels like the sweet spot's massive. It doesn't feel like your typical your 95. You know, it is a very kind of forgiving racket, you know, for the head size and everything. You know, like I say, the sweet spot feels big. But for me, I'm just thinking about, you know, obviously I'm traveling a lot, I'm playing a lot in different places. I want something that kind of fits into every situation, and I feel like I could play on the clay with this. I feel like I could play on indoor hard. I feel like it could compete well in pretty much all environments. I feel like the 95 was great. I feel like if you're probably playing like more, you know, indoors or on maybe like quicker courts that are kind of where the ball's coming through kind of a little bit more, you know, the only thing that I have with the 95 is if the ball is like kicking up, obviously, you know, it's a 95, like I'd like a little bit more kind of, you know, room for error.
Okay, I can accept that, I guess.
But it is a phenomenal feeling racket. Like if you're indoors in here, like it's a joke, you know.
Of course, the 95 is a great racket, but it is more niche. It is a niche frame.
Yeah.
Whereas a 98 is going to be the most popular of the range. The 98 Tour, I think it's slept on because people don't know about it as a 315 and the plow through.
I didn't know they did a 315 before.
There you go.
Crazy.
Yeah. So in terms of you would go forward with the 98 Tour, Ollie's going the 98. Got pretty much your bases covered. A quick talk about the 100. Suits players, but maybe not for you in terms of it gives you too much power than you want. But for some players, that's going to be perfect.
Yeah, I always think with like power, there's a big difference between like having a lot of power and optimum power. You know, I feel like these rackets, the 98, obviously I can generate a lot of my own power. Like these give me the optimum level of power that I can still control. And I think players obviously that want, you know, very kind of crisp, comfortable feeling racket that gives them, you know, a lot of spin, as well as the power, I think the 100 is very good. And
what was the major take-homes? If you just sum it up in a couple of words, what does the VCORE do better than other rackets? What's the VCORE all about?
I think it gives you the performance of, you know, like a kind of stiffer spin frame, but it gives you the kind of comfortable, forgiving feedback. That's what I'm taking from, you know, this racket. I'm getting a really high level of performance, but it's not taking out on my arm, and it's not kind of, you know, sacrificing, you know, too much.
Okay, a ringing endorsement then. Cool. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Big thanks to Ollie and Sean for coming today and showing us actually how to play tennis. And big props to Yonex UK as well for letting us get hold of these beauties early. Come and demo them. They'll be available from mid-Jan in all our stores in London. So a brand new store in Wimbledon. We've got Westway, Windsor and Berkshire. We've got Hyde and Regent's Park as well. They're a must demo, definitely. You get that Japanese Yonex made quality, a comfortable feeling, load it up with spin. And I actually think they're going to challenge E-Zone next year. Let's see who wins that battle. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe to the channel.